Hey, Jay, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, Zach, I can hear you.
Jay, can you hear me?
He's on mute, Zach.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's about 10:59, and we are going to be getting started here shortly. So just if you be patient for another couple minutes. We truly appreciate everybody joining us today for this. I think it's going to be a really good session for all of you. So thank you, and we're going to get started here in the next 1 to 2 minutes. Good morning, everyone. This is Jay Copelson, Vice President of Corporate Accounts for Mannington Mills. First of all, thank you so much for joining all of us today. We truly appreciate this. We think we're going to have a great presentation for you with perspectives from two great retailers of Mannington's. And we're going to get started here in a few minutes. And I'm going to turn things over to Zach Zahner. So just a few housekeeping items that I just wanted to address. All of you are muted, so obviously you could talk or whatever, but I know you'll be listening, but all of you are muted. And if you do have a question for our presenters today, you will see a tab on your computer that you could ask a question, and then at the end, we will answer as many questions as we can. And if we can't get to all the questions, then I promise you, me personally, I will even email you guys back the answers. So, so please ask any questions that you would like. So we're going to get started, and I would like to introduce all of you today to the president of Mannington's residential business, Zach Zahner. Zach?
All right, we're going to try this again. Hey, everybody. Jay, thanks for handing it off. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to say, start by saying I hope all of you, your families, your teams are staying safe, are not going too stir crazy during these crazy times. We are trying something new here, trying to get creative, and have put together a series of webinars that Mannington will present called Stronger Together. It's really designed to provide a unique forum for our dealers so that they can hear from partners handling different aspects and navigating the issues of the day. While Mannington isn't necessarily in a position for all of you to provide legal or financial advice, we're a flooring company. We do throw out the disclaimer that all the information provided is for general guidance, and all the attendees should contact their individual advisors. Obviously, the individual situations that you all are facing are very specific, and you should talk to your individual advisors. But we have heard feedback from many of you guys that hearing firsthand from your peers that have gone through the processes that are out there to provide some assistance would really provide some value. We're going to turn now to the subject of the day. We know that there's been a fair amount of trade press and industry information about the federal government programs and assistance made available to small businesses under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. Specifically, we thought it'd be helpful for you to hear directly from two retailers that have gone through the process, focused really on the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, which is offered by the SBA. We know that, as likely many of you found out last night or have been monitoring, that the SBA funds for the PPP were exhausted yesterday. And it's been widely reported that the needs certainly were not fully met through this first round of funding, and that Congress has as a priority digging in and looking at a second round of funding. Word is that we should see resolution on that subject on Monday. Obviously, things are developing day to day. But because this second round of funding is likely, we thought it would still be beneficial for all of you to hear from your peers that went through this process to understand how it works and things to think about as that second round becomes available. So we're going to get started. I'm going to introduce our two guests today, Jason Goldberg and Ryan Corrigan. There they are. First up is Jason. Jason is CEO of America's Floor Source, based in Columbus, Ohio. He went to The Ohio State University and worked for the family flooring business for 2 years before starting his own business in 2000. AFS, or American Floor Source, employs 250 people at 6 locations. I'd also say Jason is a true entrepreneur at heart. He has started 2 other companies while managing a large dealership as well. In 2017, he began the retail lead management, providing a lead management software tool built specifically for the flooring industry. And in 2019, he launched TraLaMa, a company focused on the trade labor marketplace. Thanks for joining us, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Ryan Corrigan. Ryan is CEO of MCI Carpet One in St. Cloud, Minnesota, where he has spent the last 16 plus years of his career. He is a CPA by training, joined MCI as a controller before being promoted to his current position. MCI has 3 retail locations in addition to being engaged in the builder business and the commercial business, and has 70 employees. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
So really appreciate you guys spending the time and doing this with us. I think your peers listening in, and we have a large number, appreciate it as well. As this is a Friday, guys, after all, and a Friday many weeks into this thing, I want to keep this informal and conversational. How I think this is going to work is I'll throw out a question geared to one of you, specifically to one of you, or a topic. Have one of you answer it, and then the other can jump in and add any details from your experience that we may have missed. Make sense?
Sounds good.
All right. Jason, going to start with you. We'll start at the very beginning. How did you initiate the PPP SBA loan process?
So it launched on a Friday 2 weeks ago. Leading up to that 2-week launch, I started talking with both my attorney and my banker, my main banker. And I got information from both of them, but as it got closer to that Friday launch, I realized that my bank wasn't going to be ready on Friday. So I called my other bank that I deal with. They don't have the vast majority of our business, but they have a little bit. And I started talking to that bank, and they weren't launching on Friday either. So just conversations with both of them, trying to position myself with who I was going to use. I think really, Zach, he was at the beginning was who could get me my application through the fastest, because knowing the program was only $349 billion, I knew it was going to run out. I'm shocked it took 2 weeks. I figured it would have run out in 2 days.
So did you work at all directly with the SBA, or under the process, does your bank then work with the SBA?
You work directly with your bank, and your bank works with the SBA.
All right. And what if your bank happens not to be an SBA approved lender? Any thoughts there on what to do? I'm sure some on the line have run into that.
Yeah, you better find a different bank to use to apply. That being said, the people that I was talking with were going to take care of their existing clients first before they took care of non-clients. So if your bank isn't SBA and you're trying to go to a bank that you don't deal with to file, good luck. I don't think many people had a lot of success with that.
Okay. Did you pay any fees going through the process?
No, no fees.
And how about the application itself? What did you have to do?
Yeah, filling out the application was easy. It was like 5 minutes. Preparing the information that you had to submit with the application, that took almost 2 days to gather all that information. And the interesting thing was, between the two banks we were talking to, each one was requiring different stuff. There was some overlap. So one bank wanted one thing one way and one bank wanted one thing the other way. So we gathered both for both banks and then ended up going with the bank that we felt was going to be able to get our loan in the quickest.
How about you, Ryan? Did you talk to more than one bank? How did you initiate the engagement with the bank?
Yeah, so we ended up going through our primary bank right away, and the process started with he and I talking throughout the week that this was all coming on board. And similar to what Jason said, you need to be with the bank that's going to be responsive to you. And we went through being with the wrong bank coming out of the recession, and we're fortunate to find the right banker and the right relationship as we all recovered from that. And that, I think, was a huge help and a huge benefit in having us get this thing through early, right away. I was on the phone with our banker that Thursday night before it launched, at 10 o'clock at night, and we were going through and the requirements were changing by the minute. As we were on the phone, the requirements were changing and guidance was coming out. And so, similar to what Jason said, is if you're not getting a vibe from your banker, or getting response that this is something they're willing or able to help you through, make a change and do it fast, and find somebody that will. That may not be easy because, similar to Jason's point earlier, bankers are going to help the clients they have that have been loyal to them, first. But you got to get with, and this is a time where you may find out whether you're with the right bank or not, and it's important to form that relationship now if you're not in one that's going to be helpful and attentive to you.
All right, good. So Ryan, in your experience as you went through it and worked with your trusted bank that had been a good partner, what is your understanding of what banks consider when determining the amount of the loan? Obviously, not going to share specific amounts that you guys were able to navigate here, but how did they determine the amount? What do you understand?
The first thing I would recommend is getting a checklist from your banker in terms of what exactly they're looking for. Educate yourself as much as you can on the guidance that the SBA has out, anything else that you're able to gain. But primarily, they're going to look for you to calculate what you expect that loan and the ultimate forgiveness to be, which is generally based on your 2019 payroll for most businesses, and I think probably most dealers. There's a seasonal calculation that you can use if you are more of a seasonal business, which doesn't affect us as dramatically as maybe some others. So generally, you're taking your 2019 payroll. There was some guidance that said to use the previous 12 months. I think it kind of was more widely accepted just to use your full year 2019 numbers and be able to use that to tie back to your quarterlies, et cetera. So you're going to take that payroll and figure out your average monthly payroll expenses and costs for that 12-month period of time. And once you have your average monthly qualified payroll for calculating the loan amount, you're going to take that monthly payroll times 2.5, 2.5, 250%, and that'll be your starting point. There's some other disqualified payroll in excess of $100,000 per employee that you need to back out. Things that you can add in, like your qualified group health insurance paid by the employer, qualified retirement contributions paid by the employer, those sorts of things, spiffs, anything taxable that's going to hit the W-2 for your top line wages. So you're going to start there, but get that list from your banker, because similar to what Jason was saying, there's going to be different requirements from different banks, because ultimately they're responsible for underwriting the loan and coming up with what their calculation is and required documentation.
Yeah, it's good. Makes sense. Jason, what is your understanding of how the funds can be used?
Well, I guess technically you can use them however you want, but the way the program's set up is they want you, in order for it to be forgivable, they want you to use it for payroll and payroll-related items, and then you can also use a portion of it for rent, utilities, interest on mortgage payments. And the breakdown is 75-25. You can't use more than 25% on non-payroll related. And like Ryan was saying, the payroll related can be the payroll, the health insurance premiums you pay for the employees, the 401k contributions, all that can be included.
That's good. It's helpful. Is there any documentation that you guys understand that you need to keep and submit back to the banks proving your use of the funds? How does that work? Now that you get the funds, what do you have to keep track of?
Me or Ryan?
Jason, we'll go with you.
There's really been not any clear guidance on that. The forgiveness is going to come through the bank, so you're going to do it with your bank, and then they'll get your forgiveness through the SBA. I can tell you what we're doing. We're making a copy of every check, non-payroll check that's going to count, and we'll have that set aside in a file, and then our bank will be able to look at our online account and verify that those checks cleared. Then we're just going to take our copies of bills for like health insurance or any of those other qualifying and keep copies of those with the check we wrote. And then we'll pull our payroll files from ADP over the qualifying time frame, and we're just going to submit all that to the bank. And then if they need anything else, I'm sure they're going to let us know. What the SBA hasn't done is they haven't issued what I would call final guidance on exactly how the forgiveness. So what we're going to do is, we got funded on Tuesday, so 8 weeks from Tuesday, we're going to submit everything back to them, figure out the amount, whatever doesn't get forgiven, we're going to give that money back and have this thing closed out in 3 months.
Excellent. Ryan,
Yeah,
anything to add on what you guys are doing to kind of keep track?
Yeah, keeping good documentation is important, but letting the bank kind of drive the ship on that as far as what you're going to need, and being in communication with them early on with what they're going to require from you is crucial. They're going to be the ones that are on the hook with the SBA as to whether they documented and underwrote the loan correctly. So they're going to really be able to tell you if what you've gotten available to them for documentation is going to be good enough for their files. But more is better. I think the more you can give them to make it easier for them, the better time you're going to have in getting this thing through and through smoothly on the application and the forgiveness side. So just being clean with your documentation, give them everything you can so it's easy for them to tie back to what you're asking for on the front end and what you're asking for forgiveness on the thing when the 8-week period is up is crucial.
That's great. Ryan, we'll stay with you. Let's talk about the term of the loan for a minute. How long is your loan, term loan, and what do the terms differ under the assistance here? Yeah.
So the way this thing works, I mean, ultimately your goal should be that there is no loan. That you get the loan in the first place, but after the 8-week measurement period is up, that your forgiveness calculation is enough to wipe the whole thing out. Now that may or may not be the case, and there's factors that can play into that. It really is predicated on keeping your payroll numbers and employee counts up at the same or similar level than what you were at for the period of time you were measuring and calculating the original loan. So if you lose a couple of employees for whatever reason, or you choose to have to, let employees go, that's a business decision you have to make. But ultimately, the proceeds of this thing are to fund you keeping people on, you keeping your best resource, which is your people and your employees, and paying them to stay on board. And if you do that, ultimately this loan will be completely forgiven. And again, you got to go through the calculation and everything for the amounts that qualify. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you do have a small amount that isn't forgiven, the loan term is a 2-year payback period that starts 6 months after your measurement period ends, generally kind of viewed as June 30th, because then there's also another provision in there that you have until June 30th to hire additional employees to get that forgiveness amount up if you don't have them hired during your initial measurement period. But if you find yourself with a loan, you need to pay it back right away. If you don't want a loan on the books, there's no prepayment penalty. Or you have 2 years from the date of the loan to pay it back. The rate is at 1% interest rate, so it's incredibly cheap money, but it does need to be paid back over that 2-year period of time.
Jason, any perspective on the loan term? You would hit on, hey, if you're not using all of the funds, you pay them back. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so Ryan did a good job of covering all the stuff. I mean, it's the same. The loan is up to 2 years, so if the part that isn't going to be forgiven, if you don't want to pay that back right away and close your loan out, you use it for 2 years, you will have to start making your payment to the bank in month 7. But like Ryan said, it's 1% interest. But the whole key to me to the whole thing was being able to get money to keep your employees employed and pay them, and then you don't have to pay it back. Like, to me, that's the whole concept. This is a gift. This is like winning the lottery. I know we're all struggling, but I don't think this will ever happen again in any of our lifetimes where the government's going to come and say, we're going to give you money. If you use it for this, keep your people employed. You don't have to pay it back. And remember, I mean, they can either give us businesses money to allow us to pay our people instead of us, having to lay off people or whatnot, because if we lay them off, the government's still going to have to pay them through unemployment. So they've just figured out what I consider a better way, because as we've all seen on the news, the unemployment system isn't working all that well right now, where a business we can just keep the employees on and keep them paid.
Yeah, that's good information. Did you do any research beforehand, Jason, or find a good resource to help navigate this?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was joining a few different seminars of different people talking about it. The WSCA did some, a few of my friends did some, but I found the best place to go was just go to the SBA website, and there's a document there. It's the final guidance. I actually have a copy of it right here with a few things highlighted. It's clear as day. It's easy to read. It tells you exactly what you need to know. You don't have to listen to anyone. Just read exactly what the SBA says, follow the guidelines, and you'll be good to go. And I found reading this was more beneficial than sitting through all those webinars. I could read it in 10 minutes, and I knew everything I needed to know.
Ryan, any thoughts on that? Did you tap a resource?
I did. I tapped basically any resource I could find, but similar to Jason, the SBA was ultimately going to be the Bible here, right? I mean, because there's a lot of guidance out there that's just not accurate or conflictive or just plain wrong, and it's because there's the information is coming at warp speed, and some interpretations were inaccurate early on in this thing, and the PPP loan, the calculation in terms of what you were doing with your subcontractors, that sort of thing was all over the board until there was finally some guidance that came through the SBA to the banks that then was rolled out. So kind of be careful about what you're getting for guidance in terms of what the source is. You'll make sure it's a good source, but really the best and most reliable source is going to be the SBA, even if it's not clear. The other interpretations by any other associations or attorneys or anyone else out there doing webinars is only going to be as good as what the SBA puts out. So, use that, get as familiar as you can with that, but you can get some, some interpretation from some people that can help if you're unclear or don't quite understand something. So, but choose your sources. I think the World Fork Covering Association is a good one. If you've got an attorney that is a firm large enough to put out some information, take that. Your insurance companies, your builders associations, tap into all that if you can, and have the time, but also be a little wary of what the source is too. You get a lot of interpretations and information out there that are just plain wrong.
Yeah, I actually read this, Jason. You held it up. I read this SBA guidance in the Federal Register too, and where at first you might say, "Oh my gosh, this is dense." It was pretty clear and straightforward, and provided really good information. So I agree with that one.
Let me add one thing. I would tell you that after you are approved and you're working with your bank, at that point, just listen to what your bank tells you, because they're the ones who are not only giving you the money, they're the ones who are going to get it forgiven for you. So just do what they say. If you have any questions, talk to your attorney. You should be in good shape.
We're not going to go into great detail on this, but as you guys went through this process beyond the PPP, just as a quick shout out to all those listening, what other provisions of the CARES Act or other assistance programs should your peers here keep in mind? Jason, we'll start with you.
The only program that I really paid attention to in the CARES Act was the PPP, because to me, that's the gold standard. I know there's a few others, maybe Ryan can touch on those because I don't know much about them. But as this whole thing was going on, one thing that I would recommend that everyone listening pay attention to, and that was the stuff they passed about the Family First Act. I know this isn't money to your business, but this affects your business, and you need to understand the rules, whether it's the 2 weeks of additional paid sick time or whether it's the 10 weeks of the additional FLMA. You need to understand how that affects your business based on your size. And, there's some postering and things you have to put up, and just make sure you follow those guidelines because you're responsible for those.
Ryan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I believe, being as up on the Families First Act is crucial, because your employees are also hearing things in the news, they're hearing things from friends. You don't want them interpreting something that they heard that you're maybe that they think you're doing wrong or not doing appropriately. So being educated on that, doing the correct postering, and maybe some of the dealers out there won't necessarily fall under they might be exempt from that act, but if you're not, or even if you are, knowing about it and being educated on it, so you know how to deal with each employee situation. That's kind of what we've done, is tried to take each situation, for what it is individually, and that can be hard if you have a lot of employees. But every situation may be a little bit different in what the employee wants or can do, whether they absolutely need to be away, whether they can be away, or can somewhat stay in touch and handle accounts, handle customers, but being aware of what you need to do under the act, because it is required. There are rules that are set out under this thing, and knowing what you're expected to do for your employees, and being up on it and doing that. Don't mess around, just do the right thing for them.
It's good advice. Guys, we only have a couple minutes left. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Jason, we'll start with you. Any thoughts, tips, suggestions, things that you are doing with your employees now you're funded through this, and continuing to operate? What are you doing to keep your business strong? Stay relevant.
Right, so I want to tell you two things. One, I'll get to that question in just 1 second. For those of you who are listening, if you have not filed, we all believe they're going to put in another round of $250 billion in. It'll not take near as long to go through that money as it did to go through the first set of money, because banks were confused. No one's confused anymore. So I have a feeling when that launches, there's going to be a couple days and all that money is going to be gone. Do not wait. Get with your bank. Be very aggressive. I was relentless in my communication with my bank. I was texting, calling all through the weekend. So you need to do that, because I believe once this other $250 billion, once it gets approved, when it's gone, I think that'll be the end of the program. So you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. First come, first serve. Do not wait, get your money. All right, on to the question you just asked, Zach. look, we're all in different circumstances. I'm lucky that in my markets, I'm still open because we're considered essential. I have a ton of people working from home. We've had 3 of our 4 divisions are down, pretty large. Our commercial work isn't down as much because we're just working through a backlog, but we know they're not making sales. So what we have our employees doing, we have them doing a lot of training. There's a lot of online training they can do, and we have them learning how to use various softwares that maybe they'd never used before. So something as simple as Zoom or GoToMeeting, DocuSign, RLM, other products that help the business. We're spending an immense amount of time doing that, and then they're doing product training and knowledge training because I don't want people sitting at home doing nothing. You know, everyone's still getting paid. Everyone's getting paid at their full rate, which is what we want. We want to take care of our employees. But when this ends, or when we can get regularly back to work, when customers can start coming to our showroom again, I want to have the best prep, best prepared people who just didn't sit around and waste time.
That's great. Ryan, thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree with Jason 100% and getting the point he made in his first point and getting this PPP loan application process done behind you. If you started the process, finish it, complete it as best you can. Work with your banker, be in their ear, be the squeaky wheel, and make sure you're in line with them because it's really more likely than not that something else comes out that's going to be available to you, whether it's in this exact form or something modified. But be ready, be nimble, and be responsive and get it, because it was, Jason said it earlier, this is a gift that may not ever happen to us again, and hopefully doesn't, but take advantage while you can. Whether you absolutely need it or not, go get it, and that's what we did. I think overall, this gives us an opportunity to keep our people on board. The main thing we've all struggled with in most of our dealerships over these last couple of years is getting good people. Well, this is an opportunity now to keep the people you have and do that. In fact, maybe take this as an opportunity to go out there and look for some more people if you can. Everybody's got to weigh what you're able to do, what you're not. Some dealerships are shut completely down, some are completely open, and everything in between. We're taking this as an opportunity to make sure we keep the people we have and value, and to look at others. We're hiring right now. We're looking at opportunities to bring people in an interview that are now out of work, maybe in other industries, particularly the hospitality and restaurant industry. We're looking at now, how do we add a couple people that we haven't been able to over these last couple of years. Be smart, be cautious with what you can do. We all went through this for the most part 12 years ago in terms of the financial impact. Of course, this is a little bit different, or a lot different situation, but similar playbook. So use what you learned back then. I always say, if you don't invest the mistakes or what you spent at one point in time in the past and use that to help your decisions be better in the future, then you just wasted that pain and agony. So let's all use that and get through this.
Thanks, guys. We did open this up to some questions, and we got one that we didn't fully hit on that I'll share with you and see if we can get this answered. As far as determining payroll expenses, the question came across for employees who are 100% commission. How is that determined? Did either of you guys have that situation, and did you need to deal with that as you identified the payroll expense?
So our employees are a draw against commission, or many of the salespeople are. So we're taking their regular draw as the measure, and there's some guidance from the SBA on that, but that's a little bit of a black hole. If they're truly straight commission, what is the average or the normal? Is it what you're measuring on a cash basis or an accrual basis, meaning what did they earn during this period, or what were they actually paid? I would say, and default back to what's your banker say, what can you use?
Jason, do you have that situation?
Yeah, we do our straight commission salespeople. I don't recall if we covered this, but if we're using that number and how we calculated what we could get on the filing, whatever they made, as long as it didn't exceed 100,000. Anyone who makes over 100,000, you can use up to 100,000 in the calculation. For the forgiveness part, it's like Ryan said, it's a little bit unclear. So, we'll just listen to what the bank says about what they want, and that's what we're going to give them.
Got it. All right. So it's critical you look to the guidance, but also work specifically with your bank. Guys, we have gone slightly over time, but I think it was really worthwhile. I want to thank all for those that attended the webinar, our first, and we'll continue to build on this series. But I really want to thank both of you, Jason and Ryan. Very generous with your time, helping us do some research, educating us on this process was part of this week, so we appreciate that. For all of you out there, reminder, Mannington.com Stronger Together is a resource that we've added that includes links to information and guidance that these guys teed up as part of the SBA PPP process, but other links as well. And also remind you all to take a minute, do the survey, let us know if this was helpful, give us a sense on what topics we can tackle next. As a reminder, just final, please reach out to your individual advisors because this is a very specific situation and relevant to your own business. So please do that. I want to thank everyone. Thank you all for your support. We're in this together. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Everyone, apply for those loans. Don't get left out of this money.
Yep.
Good advice. Good advice.
All right.
See you guys.
Thank you.